Welcome, Vivek ji. This is
Namaste. How
Milan
are
Patel.
you? How are you?
Wonderful to host you today, and
Thank you
I'm
so
sure the
much. It's
members.
my great privilege.
And I think Sumit, what you can do is quickly you can introduce. There's some time to introduce the office bearers. If you can do that to
I
see Hattangadi ji.
yeah yeah. I'll
You
introduce.
can just call me Vivek. I'll be very happy.
That's very humble of you. Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. The chairman of IDMA GSB is Shri Milan Patel of Trica Pharmaceuticals. Uh, Senior Vice Chairman is Shrenik Shah of Montage Laboratories, Sanchit Chaturvedi of Hellwood Laboratories, and Jay Patel of Astral Stritech are Vice Chairman.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, sir.
I am the Honorary Secretary, Vivek ji.
Yeah.
And Jayesh Bhai of Nucleus Formulation and Mukesh Bhai of Sunway Drugs
Hello.
Hello, Mukesh Bhai. Kim Joe.
Joint
Fine.
Secretaries. And Atul Bhai Shah is the Treasurer of IDMA GSB.
Wow.
Atul Bhai,
Great.
Hello.
Welcome, Atul Bhai.
Yeah.
I think we'll start the
Yes.
webinar now because we have sufficient people.
Yes, we can. I think we can start the webinar.
Okay. Friends, on behalf of IDMA GSB, we welcome you all to the webinar on how to increase your sales revenues without increasing your budget. It is a very interesting topic and relevant to all companies, big and small. In these times of uncertainty, when budgets are constrained, this topic becomes all the more relevant. And I'm sure all of us are very eager to listen to the experienced speaker. So let me take this opportunity to welcome the guest speaker of the day, Shri Vivek Hattangadi ji, who has a career span more than my age. I would also like to welcome Dr. Swati Sinha of Pharma State Academy, who are co-organizers for this webinar. And I would now invite Shri Milan Patel, Chairman of IDMA GSB, to give his opening remarks on the subject.
Thank you so much, Pharmacist Academy Swati and Sri Vivek ji. I'm just hoping that the members and the attendees would have a wonderful exposure and have ideas or at least some concepts about a subject which is very close to my heart.
Very good.
But then I'm not the only attendee, so I hope.
I understand. I understand.
I think I'm very sure that when we are talking of marketing or when we are talking of entrepreneur or a pharmaceutical company, there are certain areas which need to be addressed in the future if you are going to be relevant in the coming future. When we talk of the current marketing practices, obviously, if the goal most of the time has been around profitability, and a lot of that has resulted into transactional marketing. I would not go into the details of that, but that is what is something which is, well, yes, companies have grown, people make profits. But I do believe that in the MSME sector, in the medium scheme sector, where the expenses to the return ratios are always a challenge, I'm sure Hattangadi ji will put more light on that. We need to, we adopt this out of compulsion. We have adopted most of the companies on and off in the past without, realizing that ultimately this is something which is not going to, at least those who have done and grown, they are there, but people who want to grow, they will not arrive there with the help of them. That's what my belief is, at least. What we should really believe in is that deliver products, which in the coming age, why we should change the strategy. And I believe that the change in the outlook should be there because of multiple reasons. One of them is that the patient who is going to be the main user or the main person who is going to generate the cash for the company. He is going to be more and more educated, more and more informed. So even if the medical practitioner is having his limitations, if we are coming out with products which can fill up the gaps and add more benefit to the patient. So basically coming to a patient-centric approach and making more efforts and spending money on the communication of taking across those products to the patients through the doctors. We cannot avoid the doctors. would I think be more organic and a more solid strategy for the coming future for all the companies who are at a stage where they want to take off. So long term, initially it could happen that your focus has to shift from transactional to product focus so that the products can come out in the market which are adding value to the patient and then spending money on the communication. It's not easy. I never said it's easy. Your sales to expense ratios can be very high initially, but I do believe, and out of experience, I can vouch for that once you are established those kind of products through those kind of effective communications, the sales to expense ratios do go down. So to summarize, I would rather say that we should start focusing on the product and patient rather than on the transaction, which can be much faster and easier compared to the two. But then that is the long-term approach, and that is where the pharma industry's image, the pharma industry's outlook, when we are concerned, I mean, when we are talking to people who are not within the pharma industry, the outlook has always been, gray. I would not say it is black or white. It has been gray to a certain extent, and we can surely correct that. I'll not take too much of a time because I am not the guest speaker. Thank you so much, and it is wonderful having Pharma State Academy Swati as well as Vivek on this webinar. Let's all absorb like a sponge whatever is coming next. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Milan bhai. Friends, before we move ahead, I would like to inform you that we have a question and answer session. We'll be having a question and answer session after the speakers have completed their speech. So whatever questions you have, you can put up in the chat box and I will take it up with the speaker. So please do not interrupt the speaker during the speech and put your questions in the chat box area. Let me introduce you to Shri Vivek Hattangadi ji. Shri Vivek Hattangadi ji is the Chief Mentor with Pharma State Academy, an online learning platform, as also the founder of Enablers, a brand management and training consultancy firm based in Ahmedabad. Mr. Hattangadi has had a career spanning 47 years in the sales and marketing side of pharma industry and has been mentored by legends like late Professor Chitta Mitra and late Professor Tarun Gupta. He started his career as a sales cum delivery boy in Mumbai 1973. After that, he continuously rose up the ranks and held several senior and important positions, including product manager with Sun Pharma, general manager sales and marketing with Intas Pharma, and later division head with Torrent Pharma. In 2004, he set up the Enablers, his own consultancy firm. He has also worked in the field extensively in 4 countries outside India. Vivek Hattangadi ji is also a prolific author and has authored 6 books on pharma branding, marketing, and sales. These include What the Pharma CEO Wants from the Brand Manager. Another book is How to Get Doctors Addicted to Your Brand, 13 Unshakable Laws of Pharma Branding. And another book is 51 Lessons from Vivek Hattangadi, Pharma Branding, Sales and Leadership. This book particularly was written during the COVID period. He is also a guest faculty in many pharma business schools. All in all, Shri Vivek Hattangadi ji is a highly experienced professional and his guidance is always in sync with today's realities. So I'll keep you no longer away from him and I'll request Vivek ji to take the stage.
Thank you very much, Sumit ji. Thank you very much. And without much ado, I'll straight away start sharing the screen. So at the onset, I would like to thank Mr. Milan Patel, Mr. Sumit Agrawal, and Mr. Shrenik Shah of IDMA, Gujarat State Board, for inviting me to speak during the AGM webinar. And the topic which I'm going to talk today is increasing sales revenues without increasing the budget. First of all, we should always remember the golden rule. Profit is not a bad word. Nafo ek kharab shabd nahi. Because without profits, how can we survive? We need profits not just for earning our bread and butter. We require profits for reinvesting in the future for further development of the company, of the products, and so on. Why I'm saying this profits is not a bad word, because this is the misconception which people in the world have. During a very recent study which was carried out by Jamia Hamdard University in collaboration with the Pharma State Academy, we interviewed about 655 people in the world, patients rather. And out of this 655, fortunately, around 80% said that pharma companies today help the patients in better quality of life by introducing new products with lower side effects. But my main point of worry is those 20% who said that the pharma companies are more focused only on profit. Although they form a minority, but I'm still worried for the simple fact that if this 20% is extrapolated, that becomes a very huge number. For example, in Gujarat itself, that 20% may be 10 million, 1 crore people. In India, it could even mean around 35 to 40 crore people. If 40 to 45 crore people in India say that companies exist only for profits, that's not a very healthy sign. Of course, we are much better than what we are, than what the US citizens feel about their pharma companies. In USA, the pharma companies have been listed along with the tobacco companies as the most hated industry. Fortunately, this scenario is not there in India. But all of us should work towards seeing that this negative effect which this 20% of the people have, that should be neutralized, and they should see that pharma companies are there to help the patients, to help the people. As I said a little earlier, we require profits. પુનઃરોકણ અને વિકાસ માટે નફાની આવશ્યકતા છે. Otherwise, how will companies get their funds for developing new products? For example, I know very recently, about a year and a half back, one of the most beautiful products in the world was introduced by Trico Pharmaceuticals, and I'm referring to Naso B12, which is an inhaler, methylcobalamin in an inhalable form. World over, it is known that methylcobalamin, the absorption is very, very erratic. And because of the erratic absorption, people are not getting the desired results. And with the introduction, this is, I think, in the world, it has been patented for the first time. And when you have to patent a drug, you have to pay the scientist. I mean, for all these kind of activities, we need money. So therefore, profits are important. And પુનઃરોકાણ અને વિકાસ માટે નફાની ખરેખર આવશ્યકતા છે. Otherwise, if you don't pay the scientists well, tomorrow they may migrate to USA and Australia and UK, and that we won't be left with our very own scientists. That is why profits are necessary. But what is bad is greed. Profits are good, but greed is bad. નફો સારો છે, લોભ ખરાબ છે. And that is what we should not be. And as Milan sir was talking a little while ago, this is what exactly is happening in our industry today. To tempt a doctor to prescribe our brands, we take them to dinner in 7-star hotels. And the next company takes them for a shipping trip to Dubai. The third company takes them to Switzerland, and the fourth company may even promise the moon. And this spiral continues till a time comes when the companies can no longer afford to spend on the doctors. And then the company collapses. And that is why you see so many companies in the past, they have collapsed, because now they don't have money to meet the greed of the health professionals. So my submission is, it is time to say, stop transactional marketing. Stop transactional marketing. Who brings revenue for a pharma company? Is it the medical representatives, the first line manager, the vice president, the company owner? Well, while every one amongst these they have the contribution, but the real cash comes from whom? It comes from the patients. The patients are the ones who pay cash. રોકડા પેશન્ટો જ આપે છે. And therefore, you have to think it is time we think of the patients, and thinking of the patient will reform our image in the Indian farmers, in the Indian world. So let us say yes to support our patients. Now, what are the kinds of patients we have? I know many mothers who have sold off their gold jewelry to save their child. Fathers have pawned their houses so that they can treat the parents, the sick and ailing parents in hospitals. The cost of treatment in hospitals is exorbitant today. Where can the poor patients get the money? And these are the patients who pay for the medicines. And they are the people who really are responsible for the growth of the pharmaceutical industry. So should we not care for these kind of customers of ours, the patients? And the reality, by 2035, the pharma industry is waking up to the fact that patients and not the clinicians are the real customers. Patients and not the doctors are our real customers. This trend has started already in the developed countries, and it is slowly starting even in India. And therefore, we in the pharmaceuticals industry, we have to think of long-term gains rather than short-term gains. It's only when we look at the patient and consider patients as our customers, we will be profitable in the long run. I've spoken to many doctors like Naresh Rehan, Dr. V. Mohan, Dr. Devi Shetty, and many more. And they say that in the coming years, it is the chronic disease which will be very, very prevalent in India. And this is also reflected in AVAC's reports every month. Today, 43% of the market share is held by chronic products. And it is estimated by 2030, it will be around 72%. 72% of the market share will be for the chronic and semi-chronic products, and around 28% for the acute products. When I say acute products, products meant for acute conditions. So if this is going to be the disease pattern in the coming years, let us create a persona of the patient of 2035. How will a patient of 2035 look like? His age will be around, it will be very young, 32, 35, 36. And this again has been confirmed by eminent doctors and even in medical journals. They will be having lifestyle disease like diabetes, like hypertension, and so on. And then the peculiarity of the patient of 235, he will be well informed with a very, very high DQ. Perhaps even before going to a doctor, he would have done the diagnosis himself. He could have also known what is the line of treatment the doctor may recommend. And if doesn't this happen, he may even challenge the doctor. So these are the kind of patients we are going to have in 2035, and 2045, and 2055. So we as pharmaceutical companies, we have to keep in mind who are the patients of the future. The patients of 2035 will be eager and more involved in managing a disease condition, because after all, it starts at a very young age. And he or she would be like to be associated with patients like me. What do you understand by patients like me? Patients who have a similar kind of disease like I have. I may be having certain conditions which I may not even like to tell my wife or my children, for the simple reason I don't want to put them to distress. I will not tell the doctor, because the moment I tell the doctor will tell the near and dear ones. So I would like to know, share my feelings with someone who has a disease like me. And therefore, if pharma companies set up patient advocacy groups or the patient support groups, they can meet patients like them. They can pay patients like me, where they will be able to share उनका दुख सुख सब share कर सकते हैं. He would like his voice to be addressed, and at the same time, they would like to have better outcomes. Today, most of the patients, they are unhappy. And this has also been reported in one of the very recent articles of April HBR. And they say that most of the patients, they are unhappy. Unhappy with the kind of treatment they receive in the hospitals and from their doctors. And if anybody wants, I can share that HBR report with them. Now, what is my experience as a pharma patient, a person for 48,000 hours? When I say 48,000 hours, this is the waiting time outside a doctor's chamber during my 47 long years of service, waiting outside the doctor for a call. And what is it that I have noticed during these 48,000 hours? I'll tell you a little later, but one thing is very important to remember. Many of the things, they are not within the control of the doctor. Why do I say they are not within the control of the doctor? They are not within the control of the doctor because of the abysmal doctor-patient ratio which we have. While the WHO recommends one doctor for a population of 1,000 in India, even if you include all the Ayush doctors, it is one doctor for a population of 1,350. If you include only the MBBS and above doctors, it's 1 to 1,800. But when it comes to the super specialties, it's even more abysmal. For example, it comes to diabetology and endocrinology, one endocrinologist or one diabetologist for a population of 1,20,000. Okay, let us just consider only the diabetic and the pre-diabetic patients. Even then, the ratio is around one doctor for a population of 20,000. So if this is the doctor-patient ratio, where can the doctors get time to speak to the patient, to consult the patient? And this is time for pharma companies to step in and offer assistance to the doctors. Therefore, if the doctor is not able to give adequate time to the patients, it is not because the doctor deliberately wants to do it, but he is unable to find time. If he is not able to explain the prescriptions again to the patients, again, because he doesn't have the time to do that. Empathy is missing, and empathy is a subject which is not taught in many medical school, any medical school rather. And this is again where pharma companies can step in and help the doctors, explaining the side effects. The side effects are mostly handled by the patient and their caretaker at home. And unfortunately, none of the caretakers at home have ever been trained on this subject. This is where pharma companies can help the patient advocacy groups and even the doctors. But you may think you require huge budgets for that. marketing budgets for this are definitely huge, but where can you cut down and yet it will not affect the revenues? Let us take the case of a typical company. Under the marketing heads, what are the main heads? Your field staff, sales and service, examples and gifts, travel and stay for conferences of doctors, doctor entertainment, and training. Now, just think over in the coming 15, 20 years, medical representatives' job is evolving. Their jobs are not the same what it is today. There'll be more of knowledge workers. And if we have to convert them into knowledge workers, they require training. So, which are those areas where we can cut down? And I can tell you, we can definitely cut down on samples and gifts, travels and stay for conferences, and doctor entertainment, and reallocate the expenses here to field sales salaries, expenses, and even training of field staff to become knowledge workers. I'm not talking just about the medical representative. Training starts to the training managers. We have to train the training managers in the first place so that they can in turn train the field staff to be knowledge workers. So where should we invest? Our investment should be field staff expenses, training people in the field to be knowledge workers, and training them with the skills which we'll need for 2030, 2035, 2040, and so on. Because the skills which they have today will not be relevant 5 years hence or 10 years hence. And this investment on people should start today itself. Earlier, it used to be go to the market. Today, to achieve competitive edge, you need to go to the patient. So reallocate the budget from non-essential heads to heads which can result into better patient outcome. Whenever we start launching a new brand or when we plan our marketing budget, start at the end. What is start at the end mean? What is going to be the patient outcome? And for better patient outcome, what should be inputs from the marketing department? And then we reallocate the budgets. So start with the end in mind and work backwards. And, or in other words, we start with patient outcome. Put patient at the heart of everything. Align the marketing and training to serve the patients. Let us start just with one activity. Even if we start with just one activity, we can increase our turnover many folds, and that is adherence to therapy. How good is the adherence to therapy, whether it is acute or whether it is chronic range of products? According to Cape Gemini and WHO, the rate of non-adherence by patients with diabetes is as high as 53%. In rheumatic disease, it is 56%. In inflammatory bowel disease, 55.6%. In depression, non-adherence is as high as 40%. Acid peptic disorders, 40%. If this is the high rate of non-adherence, we should think of what are the losses in revenue to a pharmaceutical company. according to Cape Gemini once again, which is a very, very large consulting firm worldwide, globally, $564 billion are lost every year because of non-adherence to therapy. In India, the total turnover is $22 billion. And if you assume that 60% of the revenues are lost because of non-adherence of therapy, see the huge loss to the pharmaceutical industry. Just by taking up a project where we can ensure adherence to therapy, our sales revenues can double month after month, year after year. आजकल जो एवरी मंथ एंड पे जो मारामारी होता है, फर्स्ट लाइन मैनेजर, सेकंड लाइन मैनेजर, थर्ड लाइन मैनेजर, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के जब सीएनएफ के पास जाके पैर पड़ता है, that is not going to happen. Focus on increasing adherence to therapy and you'll see the revenues, they will rise exponentially. Can pharma companies help you to overcome these issues? In the same study which was carried out by Jamia Hattangadi University along with Pharma State, doctors were asked this question: will you accept help from the pharma companies? And 78% of the doctors, they said they will accept help from the pharma companies in patient adherence. Will you encourage patients to join patient advocacy of support group? 101 doctors of the 225 or 326 doctors, they said yes. Only 20 categorically said no, and 96 were on the borderline. So if we build up the trust with the doctors, even these 96 doctors, they will respond to pharma companies positively in encouraging patient advocacy groups. Why patient-centric approach works? It's very simple. The law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity. We give something, and even without asking, when the time comes, the other party will help us. And this law of reciprocity is going to help in patient-centric approach. We did not go to the doctor and beg for prescriptions. I want just one prescription today. Please prescribe my product. I've been coming regularly to meet you for the last so many years. These kind of dialogues will become part of ancient history if we engage in patient-centric activities. Today, the pharma company reps are really not welcomed by the doctor. Go to any doctor or go to any hospital, the most unwelcome visitor there is a representative of the pharma company, be it the medical rep or the first line manager, the third line manager, or even the VP. He's the most unwanted person in the doctor's chamber. But if we start patient-centric activities, we will be really welcome. And for that, we need to build up trust. We can help the doctor build up trust with the patient, and at the same time, we can also ensure that doctor plus patient build up trust with the pharma industry. And if this trust is built up, we will be able to refurbish the image which we have. Even those 20% of the people who are not favorably inclined towards the pharmaceutical companies, they will start trusting pharma companies. Sales and sales revenue leaders should focus on patient experience. In other words, at every stage of the patient journey, the patient should be delighted. And at every stage of the patient journey, the patient is delighted, our revenues will keep on soaring, keeping in mind the law of reciprocity. Recurring revenue comes from recurring patient experiences. Good patient experience and revenues, they are closely connected. Marketing's purpose always is to enhance people's lives and contribute to good. This is what Philip Kotler says, and this is applicable even in the pharmaceutical industry. Replace people with patients. So the purpose of marketing of a pharma company is patient and contribute to the good. And this is what he writes in his latest book, H2H Marketing, the genesis of human-to-human marketing. The golden words of Philip Kotler: earn the place in the customer's heart, and she will gladly offer you a bigger share of her wallet. Do the same for an employee, and employee will give back with a quantum leap in the productivity and work quality. Thank you very much. I would like to invite questions.
Thank you, Vivekji. We'll now go for the question answer session. I once again request all attendees to put their questions in the chat box so that I can take it up with Vivekji. Sir, to begin with, this is my question. You said profits are good. Profit is not a bad word. In the movie Wall Street, Gordon Gekko said greed is good. So how do you strike a fine balance between profit and greed? And what is the dividing line between profit and greed? This is especially relevant in the COVID times, when we have oxygen concentrators being sold at 1,20,000. And so how do you differentiate or divide or strike a fine balance between profit and greed?
Very recently, there is an example of a pharma company from USA. The company Vira, it acquired a Daraprim, which is an anti-parasitic drug, and straight away they increased the price to $750 a tablet. Just imagine, $750 a tablet, which is available in India maybe for a few paisa. That is greed. But a company, say like Troika, it has priced their Dynapar spray at around 197 rupees. Of course, they are making good profits, but this profit they are earning, why are they earning this profit? So they reinvest on developing new products, and that is how they could develop a product like NASO B12. Now, the advantage with NASO B12 is that you now are able to get B12 at a consistent, because the earlier oral tablets, they had a very erratic rate of absorption and therefore did not give the same kind of results which was expected. So this kind of profits which you make for reinvestment for the patient's good, that is real investment. That is not greed, because whatever we are earning, we are reinvesting for the future good of the patients. Otherwise, how will companies develop vaccines? How will companies develop newer and newer molecules? I hope I've been able to answer this question.
Yes, very well. Thank you. One of our colleagues, he's been requesting for a copy of that HBR which you mentioned.
Yeah, I've told him that you can send a request on the Pharma State Academy, academy@pharmastate.com, or you can also send it to me, Vivek Hattangadi@yahoo.co.in, and as soon as I have the email ID, I'll send it to you.
Okay, I'll coordinate with Dr. Sinha for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Milan bhai, I think you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I mean, we have been like Vivek ji has been highlighting and acknowledging. Thank you so much for the same, making patient-centric products and giving products which are either having higher efficacy and lesser side effects or resolving a problem which has not been resolved in the therapeutical treatment, which is known as pharmacoeconomics, which is a terminology which is being used very well in the governments and all the documents. But well, the challenge is like if you're talking of nasal B12, let me be very honest, it's not a successful product. It's not a product which should be doing the kind of business it's doing. And the biggest problem is that ultimately we are being patient centric, but we are bound by or constrained by the approach of the doctors. I will not be putting any moral comment on that. How to overcome that? How do we overcome that?
That's a very difficult question to answer offhand. Maybe a little more deep study is required. What are the actual activities? But even if the product is not doing really well, I will not blame the product. Maybe there are some other things which we need to look into. But to me, that's a wonderful product. Really, to me, it's a wonderful product.
Thank you. No, I do appreciate that. My general question, if we even remove nasal from the discussion, is that how do we communicate directly to the patient, considering the local law, the laws in the country, and it's always the doctor ultimately who's the influencer.
Yeah.
So we, for example, in Dynapar QPS, we are going to take it on the OTC platform now, because that is, we have got the OTC approval and we are going there. So that by and large, a lot of communication is going to be directed to the patient. But how do we do that, a balance for a product like, not nasal any product which is a prescription product?
Whenever we talk of patient centricity and whenever we talk of going directly to the patient, probably the doctors may not appreciate that. We are then treating on a very, very delicate part. So we try to establish patient advocacy groups. And through these patient advocacy groups, we bring a liaison between the doctors and the patients. And one of the classical examples is when Merck Sharp and Dohme, they introduced their sitagliptin, Januvia and Janumet. They came out with an online platform. It was basically a call center because it was introduced somewhere in 2007 or 2008, somewhere when the internet, I mean, these kind of facilities which we see today were not there. They had established call centers and the doctors themselves recommended to the patients that they should join this, I forget the name of the entire program. They should join this program, which was Sparsha. That was a program called Sparsh. And they recommended to the patients, join this Sparsh, which has been started by the company. So we need to go to the doctor, so we cannot directly go to the patient. We have to become something like, a middleman between the doctor and the patient. And that is where what I said a little earlier, reciprocity. We help the patient is happy, the outcome is, and entire credit goes to the doctor. But then the doctor remembers that this and this company has helped my patient, and therefore, even today, after so many other gliptins which have been introduced, Januvia and Janumet still continue to be at the top. So, as you yourself have rightly said a little while ago, patient-centric approach will not give us immediate results. If we are expecting patient-centric approach to give us results tomorrow, that will not happen. There we have to wait. It may take a long time. And in India particularly, we have to get the people in the organization itself to change their mindset. Today, I have seen many of the senior vice presidents or even the presidents, their thinking is just like that of a medical representative. Whatever the medical representative says, He'll come and tell the vice president and the senior vice president, and the senior vice president will go and say, this is not possible. Unless we have a change in the mindset at the top, patient centricity is not going to work. So this approach has to start at the top, and then it has to flow downwards. Unless the top they change the mindset, patient centricity will never work.
Thank you for reaffirming our faith in patients and believing that it's going to take a long time. DINA QPS has also taken more than 6-7 years to establish. And DINA AQ, which is the most novel 1 ml where everybody's copying twice, that has also taken more than a decade. So thank you so much for reaffirming our faith that this is the only way to move forward. Thank you.
The more we invest in patient-centric marketing, the more will the public gain faith in the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay, another
And
question.
today what we see that medical representatives are not allowed inside the hospitals, and the doctors, they hardly give 30 seconds. If a doctor gives 30 seconds, that's a luxury for a company. But if we are trying to help the patient and helping the doctors, then certainly entry won't be a barrier.
Thank you. Another question is, you mentioned about the vicious cycle where companies compete with each other for gratification of clinicians and doctors.
Yeah.
Even have a code of ethics also introduced, but things are not stopping, So how does one company suddenly stop if all other competitors are not stopping that particular activity?
As I said a little while ago also, look at the person of the patient, say of 2030 or 2035. He is going to be a well-informed, highly informed patient. He will not only know what are the drugs with the doctor prescribe, the line of treatment, and he is a patient who's likely to challenge the doctor. And when the doctor knows that I'm going to be challenged by my patient, over a period of time, this practice is going to end. Because a doctor would not like to spoil his reputation. He would like to keep his reputation intact. So the patient's awareness itself can work as a deterrent, as a barrier to these kind of activities in the coming future. We have to remember that the patient of 2035 is going to be very, very, very high in DQ, digitally intelligent, and he knows everything about the doctor before he goes and meets the doctor. So the doctors will have to protect themselves from the patients from these kind of information.
Okay, thank you. One, I think last question we'll take up. How could remote detailing help companies to establish a better patient-centric approach?
When we talk about remote detailing, it is basically detailing about a product at a time and place which is very convenient to the doctor. It is a non-intrusive process. Today, when you are going and detailing to the doctors, even with the help of tabs, etc., that is a very intrusive process. But when it comes to remote detailing, it is a non-intrusive. It is for the doctor whether to listen to that detailing or not. And therefore, this is going to help the doctor in knowing better about the drug. Because as it is, the quality of people which we have today in our industry, that is going lower and lower, and doctors really don't want to listen to that. And we are talking about remote detailing. It is not a person who is going to detail. That detailing will be through artificial intelligence. It will be through chatbot. So this kind of remote detailing, where we have a doctor who himself is feeding the chatbot or whatever software which he has, then that information will definitely carry much more value than a mere representative going and meeting a doctor. That what will be the role of the medical representative in the future? The future role of the medical representative is going to help the patient in all the patient-centric activities. It's not that medical representatives as a profession that it will be discarded anytime. No, it will never happen. Medical representatives will continue to stay, field managers will continue to stay, but their roles will keep on changing and changing and changing.
Thank you, Vivek ji. I think we are now reached the, we know we have a shortage of time, so we'll end it here. I'll request Shrenik Bhai to give us the vote of thanks.
Yes, good evening, everyone present here. And it was really an interesting session by Mr. Vivek Hattangadi. And as Sumit commented that his experience is more than his age. I am elder than Sumit, and still your experience is more than mine. So it was really a very interesting session, and the proof of that is in AGM we had presence of total 45 to 49 participants, and in your case during your speech it reached to 119 at the highest. So people were eager to hear you, to listen to your experience, and various marketing points were really very interesting. If we talk about the take-home message, each slide was containing one take-home message for the people who are in marketing, and it was very interesting session from you. I thank you very much to Mr. Vivek Hattangadi for giving a very interesting speech. I thank Dr. Swati for organizing everything on behalf of Pharma State Academy, for organizing everything and in coordinating with IDMA GSB. I especially thank to all the past presidents of national body and all national EC members who spent their valuable times to attend the AGM as well as this webinar. I thank to all the past chairmen of IDMA GSB, all the EC members and all the members of Gujarat State Board, and apart from all the attendees who are not member of IDMA GSB, they have also attended. So I'm thankful to everyone for spending time and attending this webinar. Thanks to Mr. Sumit Agrawal for organizing everything on behalf of IDMA GSB, and he has put very good efforts to make this program very successful. Of course, thanks to Milan Bhai, IDMA chairman, GSB chairman, for bringing such an experienced and knowledgeable speaker to everyone present here. Special thanks to Rajiv Bhai, our IDMA executive secretary, and Nitin and his team for organizing everything. And last but not least, thanks to our IDMA GSB team for making it a successful event. Thanks everyone for spending your time and making the event successful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
We consider this event as a complete. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Shrenik.